Yo, what's good, everybody? It's your boy Dominic, aka Dom the Cyber Genius, and I'm back here with another video. I know, Advent is already passed. I know that I just want to come back to this one and use it as an example because I really feel like for day 5, there was a lot of important stuff that was in there, or that, things that were necessary if you're trying to be an ethical hacker or penetration test, and just knowing about brute forcing passwords, the different types of password methods or password attacks that are out there, as well as remote services like a SSH, VNC, or RDP. So I feel like just going over those thoroughly while doing the machine is going to really help and visualize everything for you guys. So I was just using day 5 as the example. So now we want to scroll down here. It's just talking about different learning objectives, learning different remote access services, VNC ports and port scans, connecting to a VNC server using a VNC client. So all the above. It's going to be really, really fun and interesting when we tackle this room. I already have the machine started and I already have everything up. I'm gonna just go through a little bit of this. Highly encourage you guys to read it and to just go through it, as well as try the HYDRA room, because that goes more in depth to brute forcing passwords if you want to learn about it like that. So now we're just gonna get over or going into what remote access services actually are. Right, they're just talking about how you have the control of your computer, right, with using your mouse or keyboard when you're actually at your computer. But when it comes to like managing a computer system that is physically in a different place, and that's going to be a little bit different, right, because you won't be able to physically be on the keyboard or physically use the mouse, right? So this is what, like, you may need to access a computer, but you may be in a different country, building, or room, so you need to be able to access it somehow. So this is when remote access comes into play. Remote administration of different computer system really comes into play in development, right? And they're going to mention 3. I know there's a lot more, but the main ones are SSH, so secure shell. The number 2 is remote desktop protocol, and then VNC is virtual network computing. These go into the different ways, or I guess explanations of what each one is. This one is secure shell. This one is going to be kind of going over, they're all going to be used to remote into somebody's computer. They're just kind of using different graphical interfaces, right? So there's going to be different interfaces. So whereas a SSH is going to be more like a command line interface, something like a Linux or Windows thing it would kind of look like when it comes to SSH. RDP is going to be more, it's going to be getting access to, say, like their Windows system. So it's going to be a little bit better of a graphical user interface. So this isn't going to really be a command line interface. It's going to be more of a graphical user interface where you can see you can actually see the person's screen. And that's kind of the same for VNC, right? This kind of allows them to view the desktop optionally and control their mouse and keyboard. So VNC is pretty usually available for any system with a graphical interface. The ones that it's available for, that it includes, is Windows, Microsoft, Linux, and even Mac OS, Android, and Raspberry Pi, for those people that know what Raspberry Pis are. And based on what our system means, based on what these computers actually need to meet to work for the remote desktop protocols, or the remote access services, we would then choose the different tools or controls that allow us to do that, depending on what we're able to do. This next part is going to be going into authentication. This is just validating somebody, right? So making sure somebody is who they say they are. So if I come into a store and I have a tag on and it says that I'm the manager, right? And they know that I'm the manager, then maybe, somebody needs to validate me, right? Or when you're coming out of, say, Costco, and you have a bunch of food and stuff, right? They're going to authenticate your receipt to make sure that you pay for it and that everything matches up with the cart or with what's in the cart, right? So it's kind of the same when it comes to authenticating a user, authenticating someone, like physically, right? So that kind of comes into play. It's going to be giving you 3 examples. So something you know, something you have, something you are. When it comes to something you know, this is going to be something maybe you can memorize, right? So like a PIN, a password, right? Something you have, that may be like a card, like an ID card, maybe you have to scan, an ID, a token, right? So something in that regard. And then something you are, this is going to be your actual biometric. So this is going to be like a fingerprint, retina scan, face scan. So I know those are kind of being more popular as we're going away from passwords and we're trying to be less passwordless or using passwordless security. Now we're going to be getting into attacking passwords, right? So that's kind of what this whole thing is for. We're trying to brute force and kind of like get our way into somebody's password. We're trying to brute force the authentication part to where we're able to get into their account and then do whatever we want. So these are kind of the password attacks or attacks that are used against passwords. So shoulder surfing, password guessing, dictionary attack, brute force attack. Shoulder surfing, plain and simple, it's literally looking over somebody's shoulder to see what they're typing. Maybe they might be typing a password in and you're just looking over their shoulder and copying whatever they do down. It could be a PIN code to an ATM. It could be them logging into Instagram and you're just looking over your shoulder at the airport. So that's kind of what shoulder surfing is. It's common. That's why I always sit, if I'm at an airport or something, I'm sitting with my back against the wall, or I'm just not going to be doing something, accessing sensitive information over the internet or over the, over the airport. Password guessing, this one takes the longest because you're just trying to repeatedly guess, right? So you don't really have to have cybersecurity awareness for this, right? So some people are going to be inclined to use personal details, right? When we're creating passwords and people that don't have cyber awareness, they're going to be putting stuff they can easily remember, right? So something like a birth date, a daughter's name, a dog's name, birthday, any personal information that may pertain to that person, they're going to put that in there. So as attackers, we would be guessing the password of those users, and we're going to have to require some knowledge of the target in order for us to even do that. So that may take us to do a little bit of reconnaissance. We may have to go on somebody's Instagram page or somebody's networking page to kind of find personal details from them and use those against our benefits. So that could be someone's birth year, right, or their ATM PIN code. So they're kind of saying, like in this example, it could be somebody's birth year as their ATM PIN code, right? So that's kind of the thing we have to gather. We have to gather that information in order for us to properly do a password guess. Dictionary attack, this is going to be more an expansion of a password attack. So it's going to be intertwining password guessing within the dictionary, right? So this approach is going to be expanding on password guessing and attempts to include all valid words in the dictionary or a word list. It's going to be taking a word list or even the dictionary and using all those words to brute force a website or brute force credentials to try to get them. So if you have something in your password that is in the dictionary, like say a dog, water, pizza, then it could easily be guessed or it could be cracked, right? But if you had a mixture of crazy letters, words, special characters, then it's going to be harder to crack. And then the one we're getting into, brute force attack, they're saying this is the most tiring it is and time consuming because you have to continuously guess it, and it could take months, years, and centuries to even crack a password if it's really that strong. And this is where an attacker can try all possible character combinations to try and guess your passwords. So for this one, we're going to be focusing on more of a dictionary attack, so using word lists, right? So word lists, you'll see common, rocku.txt. These type of word lists are going to have commonly used passwords or commonly breached passwords, and it's going to take those passwords or those passwords that are in that list and use them against a website to try and like brute force them to see if that password comes up for a username or not, or a specific user. And the choice of the word list should depend on the knowledge of the target. They're kind of giving an example. They're saying like a French user might use a French word instead of an English one. So a French word list might be more promising, right? So you just have to know your target. When it comes to any of this, doing reconnaissance is very key. So now they're saying hacking the authentication service. So having us start up the attack box. I already did that. Let me go into split view real quick. Whew. Perfect. Now that we're in our machine, kind of talking about, so we could go run a nmap scan, right? Network mapper. This is gonna scan the network to see what ports are open, what services are running on it. So this -ss operator is wanting us to return any services as well as the state of those services on a network. So if you see here, it's going to say SSH, VNC. If you remember, those are both remote authentication services. So let's just go run that real quick. Do 10, 10. I think there's only 2, so hopefully this doesn't take too long. There we go, perfect. So now that you see SSH, VNC, so this tells us that, okay, this is open, and they're both open, so we may be able to actually connect to it. And sometimes security teams or people that are putting these things together may leave ports open that shouldn't be open, or if they are open on purpose, they're not structured or secured properly, which then allows an attacker to use a dictionary attack, use a brute force attack to get in there and actually steal credentials and cause a lot of harm to the system. Right, so as we were saying, brute forcing and going through each password, if there's a lot of users on the screen or a gang of users, right, it's going to take forever to do that. So we're going to be using an automation tool known as HYDRA that's going to allow us to do that. What's cool about HYDRA is that it supports a lot of protocols that allow us to brute force them, right? So it allows us to brute force something like an SSH, VNC, FTP, IMAP, POP3. So those are all commonly used ports, and those are all common protocols that we use on a daily basis when it comes to sending files, being able to receive them, sending emails, being able to receive emails, and this, that, and the third. This is just the examples that it's giving you. So this is the syntax and how we're going to structure it. So this is like HYDRA L username -p wordless server service, right? So what this is saying is HYDRA is saying, hey, HYDRA is telling us this is a brute forcing tool. So it's saying -L, which is login username, right? So this is going to be the username. So whatever username you're trying to get into, or if you know that username, then you'll put that there. The reason why it's a -L is because it's only one username. If it was multiple usernames, or it was like a text file like this or a wordless file, as you see here, it would be a capital L. And then we're going to use -P for password, and we're going to use a wordless.txt. So this is going to be the rockyou.txt they were talking about earlier, and then whatever server or service that we're trying to get onto, right? So if we're doing SSH, we're going to put SSH there. If we're doing VNC, we're going to put VNC there. So that's just going through what it is. The server is obviously going to be the host name or the IP address of the target, right? So if you see here as an example, HYDRA-L, all right here. So this is basically saying, HYDRA, can you please, basically what they're saying is that we want HYDRA to brute force Mark's SSH password on this target. We're only using -L because it's for Mark, and we're using a rockyou.txt word list. We want HYDRA to take that word list and run it against that target IP address to see if we can brute force Mark's SSH password. And these are just the 2 different ways you can write it. Whichever's more comfortable with you, you can go ahead and do that. So we can try it. Just copy it. Bam. And let's see if it runs for us. May take a while. The reason why it's saying use that -T4 is that it's threads. So the more threads you use, the more kind of things it's going to actually use in order to brute force your password quicker. But I forgot to actually put that on there, so maybe it may work, it may not, but let's see. We'll just wait on that. As we were waiting for that, this is just talking about different arguments that you can add on top of it. So -v or -vv is for verbose. So when it comes to verbose, you're just grabbing all the information you can. -d is going to be for debugging. So this is going to be providing any detailed information about what's going on, or debugging an output to save you a lot of frustration, right? As you see in the terminal window, I don't think this is that name is actually up. So let me Control C or exit C. There we go. Yeah. Oops. Control L. This is just saying HYDRA. This is just the same thing that we just did. So we probably can do this one, and let's see if that works. Probably the same thing. Let's see. There we go. I don't know if this is up or not, but I don't think that username is up. I just believe they were just using that as a example. But see, look how quick it just brute forced that. Look at that. In a matter of seconds. That's how quick it is. I bet you if you show your parents or anybody this, brute forcing a password, how quick it can be brute forced just in a second, they're done. Right? So you better change that damn password from 1 2 3 4 5 6 to something crazy. That's kind of the results. So it's probably not going to give us anything because we're not targeting Alexander right now. So I'll put it into that. Boom. Right. So how you see, this is just going over, repeating that same command with any name. So if you have a different name, you just replace Alexander. If you have a different word list, then you'll just replace the word list. If you're wondering what this is just the file path of where it's at. So it's going to be starting from the user directory, going in the share, and then within word list, it's going to have rocky.txt. Usually if you have Kali, I believe rocky.txt is pre-downloaded in there. You just have to extract it. And then now this is going to be coming into the fun part where we're going to be connecting to a VNC server. So we're going to be connecting to a remote authentication service. This is what's going to allow us to see somebody's screen and even control their mouse and keyboard. This is kind of going over saying that many clients will be using or have used or are using, what is it? Oh, my bad. Sorry. They're basically saying that many clients can be used to connect to a VNC server. So we're connecting from an attack box. They're going to recommend us using Remina. I forget how to do it if you're not on the attack box. I think you may have to actually, I don't know if you have to SSH into it. But if not, but I'll make sure to look that up on a future round. But they were saying if you click on here, the little waffle, go to the internet, and then Remina, that's where it's going to be at, right? So if it says we get a dialog box, just hit cancel, and then we need the VNC protocol. So we're going to put that because that's the server we're actually remoting into, right? If you see here, Remina is a remote desktop client. So this is what's going to allow us to actually connect to a VNC, a remote desktop protocol, or somebody's system, right? So now it's saying use HYDRA to find. Let's see, zoom a little bit. There we go. Use HYDRA to find the VNC password of the target with IP address 10. Boom. Right? So what is the password? So now this is where we're actually going to go use HYDRA. So then we'll do HYDRA. Or we can just do this. Save time, right? Go like here. We're actually going to go delete Alexander, because in this instance, right, we just want the VNC password. We're not even doing something for a username. We just want the password because that VNC protocol doesn't have us or doesn't require a username. We're just gonna put -p, and then we're gonna replace SSH with VNC. And we're gonna go to the end and then put a -f command, because this is gonna signify that we're not using a actual user and we're just trying to brute force a password on the target machine. Now let's get it, baby. Hold up, it's about to do its magic. Hold up, it's about to take a while, but it's about to go crazy. Look at that. Look at that. How many passwords? It's brute forcing. Those are all words that are in a dictionary, so it's taking all those words or commonly used passwords, put them in a word list, and you're using that word list against the target IP to figure out if that account, or if there's an account that has one of these passwords in it. It's gonna take a while because I put -v for verbose, so we're just gonna have to wait a minute. And this thing is taking forever. Finally. But there we go. Now we got the password for the host and for the actual VNC server. Now if you scroll down, you just put that in there. So then, using a VNC client on the attack box connects to the target IP address. So what is the flag written on the target screen? So now, I'm gonna copy this. Boom. Close that out. Go here like they said, internet, remina, hit cancel. Now use the target IP. So your VNC is the one that's correct or put on there. Boom. Now we're just gonna paste in our password. Okay. And bam! Now we get to see, look at that, Bitcoin, baby, Bitcoin. So now if you move it over, and I think if you scroll down, it should be in here. And then move it over. Perfect. THM. I see your screen. So then you would just type that in, and then you're done. And now, if you just want to learn more, I highly recommend doing HYDRA. I highly recommend maybe doing password attacks. So this is all something cool, right? So that was it for day 5. I just wanted to come on here, show you guys what remote authentication services are, the different types of them, from VNC, SSH, RDP, as well as knowing what authentication is and what HYDRA is and how to actually use it. So hopefully you guys learned something. Hopefully you guys liked and enjoyed the video. Let me know what you guys want to see next, and Happy New Year's, and I'm out. Peace.